Yahya Jammeh was described as many things: a president, a dictator, a herbalist, a Pan-African, and many more. You see, Yahya Jammeh's life is one of the most fascinating and bizarre stories I have ever heard. For 22 years, Yahya Jammeh's iron grip saved the Gambia, both lifting it with massive infrastructure projects and dragging it down with paranoia, controversial security practices, and bizarre degrees. But who is this man really? To some, he was a visionary leader who gave the nation pride.
We have no plans to stay long. All we are here for is to set a just system.
On global stages, he condemned Western hypocrisy, demanding justice for Africa's stolen wealth.
The so-called European explorers were nothing short of people seeking greener pastures for their fellow Europeans, as Europe then had turned into brown pasture. After 400 years of colonial looting and misrule in Africa, Africa is reduced from green now to brown pasture due to overgrazing. Now, African explorers are not only unwelcome, but are greeted with instant death on European source. This is unacceptable. We have a right as Africans to defend our black people wherever they are. As we welcome all graces to Africa, we will not accept that Africans are treated like dogs and they get away with it. If the UN fails to take action, we will take action, and the action we take will be determined by us. Out of hundreds of European explorers that came to the Gambia, only one European died on the river Gambia over a span of 400 years. Today, over a span of 5 years, more than 500 Gambians have lost their lives on European coasts.
The man who welcomed change, seeing in him a strong leader who could modernize a struggling nation.
And despite the fact that we have so many hospitals and a lot of qualified doctors in the system, people are dying like flies. We have various strange diseases that can only be attributed to what we eat. So in order to address that issue, we have to grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
Notorious for his unforgiving stand on homosexuality in the Gambia.
Africans have never been homosexual. We have never seen homosexual frogs. I have cattle, I have never seen gay cattle. And homosexuality is detrimental to human existence.
This man was also known for his uncensored humor.
Don't drink, don't sniff, don't boy, recommend.
Malago français ak America ñoo la pouf. Malago bes bo repe be ken dana soldat du Senegal cross ma border bi dina nan café ci sa ndel.
But to others, he was a tyrant who turned the smiling coast of Africa into a land ruled by fear.
Yahya Jammeh is not a good person. Yahya Jammeh killed many people in this country.
And ultimately cost him the election. But Jammeh refused to accept the results, plunging the nation into chaos.
I hereby reject the results in totality. Let me repeat, I will not accept the results based on what has happened.
The young, ambitious army officer who seized power and ruled with unpredictable mix of law for his country and oppression. This is the story of His Excellency, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Abdul Aziz James Junkun Jammeh Babli Mansa, Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces of the Gambia. Yahya Jammeh was born on May 25, 1965 in Kanilai, a small village in Fonyi Kansala district of West Coast region, the Gambia. His mother, Ajafado Asombi Bojang, was a housewife and a trader, while his father, Abdul Aziz James Junkun Jammeh, was a wrestler. His grandparents migrated from Casamance region of Senegal, only a few kilometers from Kanilai. Growing up in a village, Jammeh actively helped his parents in farm activities, cultivating crops to feed the family, fetching firewood for cooking, and also helping in domestic work. Despite participating in all these house chores, Jammeh was still fortunate to be one of the few children in the village to attend and excel in school. Blessed by his parents and his hard work, Jammeh was able to complete his education in Kanilai Primary School and later studied at St. Edward's in Buam from 1972 to 1978. After passing his command entrance exam, he won a government scholarship to the Gambia High School in Banjul, where he studied until 1983. After graduation, Jammeh was now set for his next challenge, fully prepared and eager for what lies ahead. But he had no clue just how challenging it would turn out to be. In April 1984, Jammeh joined the Gambia National Gendarmerie as a private. He was part of the Special Intervention Unit from 1984 to 1986 and later became an instructor at the Gendarmerie Training School from 1986 to 1989. He was promoted to sergeant in 1986 and then to cadet officer in 1987. Jammeh joined the Gambian National Army and became a second lieutenant on September 29, 1989. His fearlessness and bravery propelled him through the ranks at an extraordinary pace and being put in charge of difficult missions. From 1989 to 1990, he was in charge of the presidential escort. In 1981, he was given command of the mobile gendarmerie, and from 1982 to 1994, he led the military police. He was promoted to lieutenant on February 1st, 1992. The same year, he was responsible for the security of Pope John Paul II during his visit to the Gambia. From September 1993 to January 1994, Jammeh attended military training in the United States. His rapid progression in the army, fueled by his boldness, granted him the opportunity to what he will do next. There were growing dissatisfaction in the military, with major concerns being incorporation of the foreign military officers in the senior positions. The disparity of living conditions between the foreign senior officers and the Gambian junior officers were believed to be indicative of a broader corrupted structuring of the government. The officers argued the increased incorporation of foreign officers into the Gambian National Army limited their opportunities for an advancement within the military. The junior officers became angry when they had not received payment for a number of months. They began to plan mutiny to disobey orders from the senior officers, which would later develop into a coup d'etat. In 1994, Jammeh and three other junior army officers, Sana Sabali, Sadibu Haidara, and Edward Singate, took action to end their frustration and led a bloodless coup against President Sir Dawda Jawara. The coup took place in July 22, 1994, forcing Jawara into exile. 4 days later, the Armed Force Provisional Ruling Council, AFPRC, was established, with Jammeh as its leader. He promised a quick return to civilian rule after stabilizing the country. Following the coup, major donors like European Union and the United States suspended aid to the Gambia, which Jammeh criticized as neo-colonialism. Knowing what kind of a man Jammeh is, this may have sparked his reason in deciding to stay in power, just to tell the West, don't tell us how to run our country. A Western diplomat noted the coup resembles others in Africa, though it remains non-violent. Prior to the coup, the Gambia was one of the few countries in Africa to be run by a democratically elected leader, but the coup marked a shift in the country, joining the trend seen across Africa where militaries are taking over the government in a form of a coup. The AFPRC wasted no time in tightening the grips on power, taking decisive steps to reshape the future of the nation. As you would see in the next chapter, their rule was cemented through bold and uncompromising actions. After the 1994 coup d'etat, Jammeh and the Armed Force Provisional Ruling Council, AFPRC, dissolved existing government structures and ruled through military orders, without inputs from the parliament or civilian government. This allowed him to make direct orders, bypassing elected representatives or other government institutions, and enforce decisions unilaterally. Political activity was banned, journalists arrested, and senior military officers, along with ministers from Jawara's government, were placed under house arrest. On October 17, Jammeh promised a 4-year transition to civilian rule, but power struggles soon followed. In 1994, just as Jammeh was formally promoted to captain, a group of young officers that lose faith in Jammeh attempted a coup. The plot failed, leading to multiple deaths, including the coup leader, Basiru Barrow, and Jammeh remained firmly in control. In response to concern over governance, a National Consultative Committee (NCC) was formed on December 7 to review the transition. By January 27, 1995, they recommended shortening the transition to 2 years. However, that very day, two of Jammeh's original coup partners, Sabali and Haidare, according to sources, launched their own attempt to remove him from power. Haidare was imprisoned and later died on June 3rd, while Singate, a trusted ally, was promoted to vice chairman. Determined to shape the country's future on his terms, Jammeh appointed a Constitutional Review Commission (CRC) in April 1995. By November, the new constitution was completed and was put to national referendum on August 8, 1996. It introduced multi-party election, reducing the voting age from 21 to 18, and removed limit to presidential terms. Though 70% of voters approved it, critics argued it only reinforces Jammeh's dominance while sidelining opposition parties. Just days later, Decree number 89 maintained ban on NPP, NCP, and GPP while allowing PDOIS and PDP to operate. On August 28, 1996, Jammeh was promoted to colonel but soon retired from the army on September 6, positioning himself as a civilian leader. He prepared for the upcoming presidential election, an election where he won massively. Yahya Jammeh transitioned from military leader to a civilian president, making the start in the Gambia's political journey. The election that year paved the way for the young leader to chart his own course. With a vision to rebuild and transform the country, President Jammeh emphasizes development, self-reliance, and national pride. Under his leadership, structural projects gained momentum, and new public institutions were established to improve education, health, and agriculture. The July 22nd revolution became a major national event, not just a celebration of Jammeh's rise, but a reflection of his belief in the new Gambia. Jammeh spoke often of economic independence, reducing foreign dependencies, growing our own food. As the slogan goes, grow what you eat and eat what you grow. Programs like Vision 2020 were introduced to guide national development with a focus on food security, industrial growth, and empowering Gambians to take charge of their destiny. His government saw major improvement in overall development of the country. Roads were constructed across the country, new hospitals opened, free education introduced, and the University of the Gambia was founded. The country also saw efforts toward agricultural independence and national pride. Jammeh also began to fight the rights of Africans in international meetings and events, including the outright rejection of gays and lesbians. However, over time, a number of serious allegations began to surface regarding his leadership. These claims were made by former government insiders, victims, and human rights organizations, and were later compiled by the Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, TRRC. Among these allegations brought forward were claims of human rights abuses, including arrests, tortures, and disappearance of political opponents, reports of a group called Junglers allegedly involved in unlawful disappearance of people, alleged suppression of press freedom, his claim to cure HIV and AIDS.
I treat AIDS and get rid of the virus
Using herbal remedies, which was widely condemned by health professionals. Incidents described as witch hunt, in which villagers were reportedly detained and given unknown substances. It is important to note that these still remain allegations until when Yahya Jammeh is tried in a court of law and found guilty. After ruling the Gambia for 22 years and losing in the December 26 election, he had shocked the world by rejecting the results he once accepted.
I will not accept the results based on what has happened.
As the days ticked by, ECOWAS threatened military intervention. Jammeh turned the nation into a fortress. The order was clear: hold the line and get ready for war. It began with checkpoints at major highways, then smaller roads, then the dirty racks, then every single small roads, even footpaths. Villages in the provinces whispered stories of checkpoints built overnight, where strangers in the uniform searched travelers by torchlights. In the capital, roadblocks surrounded State House, soldiers ready to fight to death. The airports tightly monitored, the ports were crawling with patrols, and even beaches, once filled with laughter and children, now had soldiers staring at the sea. No one knew who to trust. Some soldiers were said to be loyal to Yahya Jammeh to the bitter end. Others, was rumored, had secretly pledged allegiance to the newly elected President Adama Barrow. But at the checkpoint, loyalty wasn't a question, it was a command. Where are you going? Who are you? Show me your ID. Open your boot. Why are you out at this hour? These were questions at the checkpoints. One night in Kanifing, a taxi driver was pulled over 5 times in less than 2 kilometers. And he said, "I was just trying to take a pregnant woman to the hospital, but they searched my car like I was smuggling a tank." Behind the scene, Jammeh fortified himself. The state guard, his elite loyalists, Unite, was stationed around him, handpicked from the most trusted ranks. Foreign mercenaries allegedly brought in from neighboring countries were seen arriving in an unmarked vehicles. Heavy artillery were moved across the capital under the cover of the darkness. At Deadden Bridge, the only land access into Banjul from the mainland, a military barricade rose overnight. Sandbags, snipers, tankers were seen all across the bridge, and these include trucks mounted with machine guns, a symbolic last stand. If the foreign troops came, they would have to cross it. Inside the palace, Jammeh remained defiant. "This is my country," he was said to have declared. "I will not be bullied out like a child." On national TV, he smiled, calmed and controlled, even as fear gripped the streets outside. Meanwhile, ECOWAS troops were massing at the borders. Senegalese forces waited just across the borders or the rivers. Nigerian warship looked off the coast. The region was preparing for war, but so was Jammeh. Gambia held its breath. Garages filled with passengers fleeing the country to neighboring countries. It wasn't just politics anymore. It felt like a siege. But in the end, it wasn't the checkpoints, the soldiers, or the barricades that determined the fate of the nation. It was the weight of the pressure, both foreign and domestic. West African leaders flee in. Talk went deep into the night. People prayed, and at last, Jammeh blinked and have accepted to leave the country or to step down without a fight.
I hereby take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Adama Barrow for his victory. It's a clear victory because our system says simple majority.
On the 21st of January 2017, Jammeh boarded a plane into exile, escorted by foreign dignitaries, leaving behind a nation wrapped in barbed wire and silence. As the checkpoints were slowly dismantled and life crept back into the streets, a strange mix of relief and trauma lingered. The memory of those days when the Gambia became a land of sandbags and barricades remained itching in the mind of all who lived through them. Some call it standoff, others near civil war, but for many Gambians, it would forever be remained in the moment As the sun set on the 21st of January 2017, Yahya Jammeh boarded a plane and left the Gambia, ending his 22-year rule and making an interesting chapter in the nation's history.
Oh, that one, if I tell you, I'm lying, because I'm not in the plane as they are flying. If I tell you that, I'm the biggest liar in the world. I don't know where they are going to land. All I know is they've taken off, they're airborne. Where they are going to land, where the Atlantic goes over Pacific, that is not my business. I know that they are gone. Thank you.
His departure followed intense pressure from the regional leaders and political crisis triggered by his refusals to step down after losing the presidential election to Adama Barrow. That evening, a new dawn seems to rise in the Gambia. President-elect Adama Barrow, still operating from Senegal for a security reason, assured the nation that Truth and Reconciliation Commission would soon be established, not to prosecute but to investigate the alleged crimes committed under Jammeh's regime. The commission's aim was to unveil years of reported abuse and corruption and to offer victims a voice. Despite Jammeh's exit, no regional leader offered him immunity. The United Nations, the African Union, and ECOWAS issued a joint statement clarifying that any country offering him refuge would not be punished and that he would be free to return back to the Gambia in the future. They pledged to work with Adama Barrow's administration to ensure that any legally owned asset of Jammeh or his associates wouldn't be seized unjustly. Eventually, Jammeh found asylum in Equatorial Guinea, reportedly settling in a lavish mansion in the village of Mongomo. As Jammeh touched down in Equatorial Guinea, series of allegations followed him into exile, and here are some of the allegations. Barrow's special advisor, Mai Ahmed Fati, made a stunning revelation. The former president had allegedly stolen $11.4 million from the state treasury and flown out dozens of luxury cars in his final week in power. The Ministry of Finance and Central Bank confirmed the treasury was empty. A month later, further allegations surfaced. Jammeh had reportedly siphoned at least $50 million from the state institutions, including Social Security funds, the nation port, and the telecoms companies. Investigators claim that his $4.5 million private jet had been bought using the country's pension funds. The Gambia, already pulverized, was now bound into over $1 billion in debt. On the 24th of January 2017, Reuters published a damning report on the Jammeh's Foundation for Peace. Instead of funding community projects, the foundation's money is said to have gone directly into Jammeh's personal account. By March, the Minister of Justice announced a formal investigation into the former president's finances, including his own charitable funds. It was reported that on May 2017, a Gambian court froze all known assets Jammeh had left behind. Then came international actions. On 21st December 2017, a US President Donald Trump signed an executive order freezing all US-based assets belonging to Jammeh. In June 2018, the Gambian government moved to auction off Jammeh's remaining luxury cars and aircraft, pledging the proceeds to healthcare and education. The following month, on the 27th of July, Jammeh's mother died in exile, making another somber moment in his retreat from power. By May 2019, Jammeh was photographed alongside Equatorial Guinea's president, Theodora Obiang Ngoma. The opposition voices in Equatorial Guinea called him an unwelcome guest, stating that they did not want another dictator on their soil. Then in January 2020, the Gambian government issued a stark warning. Jammeh was not to return without permission, and this sounded like a U-turn from the previous agreement that Jammeh can come back anytime he wants in his own country. In August 2021, the new government authorized the sales of Jammeh's presidential aircraft. Surprisingly, that same year, Yahya Jammeh, while still on exile, threw his support behind opposition candidate Mama Kandeh in the Gambian presidential election.
his former rival. In May 2022, history took another turn. The Gambian government accepted a recommendation to prosecute Jammeh for crimes committed during his rule, including disappearance of people and other serious offenses. That same year, across the Atlantic, the U.S. Justice Department seized his $3.5 million mansion in Potomac.
Yahya Jammeh's history is still being written. Few months ago, after several years in exile, he finally sent a message declaring that he is coming back home.
Let them not run. Whether anybody likes it or not, by the grace of the Almighty Allah, I'm coming.
And this is the story of the second president of the Republic of the Gambia, Yahya Jammeh. If you enjoyed this video, you'll also like this one. Click here to watch it.